Hello to all! Nope, that wasn't normal. That was weird, right? Hello to all those with voluptuous facial hair and others who are filming this exact video right now. For those of you who are wondering, yes, I am finally growing out my facial hair whilst in quarantine, and yes, of course it's going super well. I'm almost offended that you had to ask. Welcome back to another edition of Happy Foo Year, a retrospective looking back on every recorded Foo Fighters album to celebrate the band's 25th anniversary. My name is Nick, and I am a stinky poo-poo duty head. You're about to smell why. Of course the rest of the series is here on YouTube, and of course you can find that playlist right up there. Hey there, hey there. But for those of you who are already acquainted with the previous videos, it's time to jump right in. The year is 2002. 6-year-old Nick chose to get Mega Man Battle Network 2 for his birthday instead of Pokemon Yellow version, and he totally doesn't regret it even to this day. As we check back in with Dave and company, we find that the band has been on tour for 2 years promoting the last studio album, There Is Nothing Left to Lose, and they are feeling it, Mr. Krabs.
Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?
The tour was so extensive that the band had turned to drugs and alcohol and substance abuse just to get by. Never a good idea, of course, for the kids watching and the Dare lion that we have all inevitably disappointed over the years. Poor guy. And this led to drummer Taylor Hawkins to sadly suffer through a 2-week coma due to a heroin overdose. During this time, of course, the band didn't feel comfortable continuing to tour, but oftentimes music and the process of creating it can help those in creative positions to cope with and move past whatever it is that they're going through. For Dave, this meant temporarily playing drums for the band Queens of the Stone Age for their studio album, Songs for the Deaf. This time spent dedicated to another band wedged a gap between the band members of the Foo Fighters, especially Dave and Taylor once Taylor had come back from his temporary recovery leave. And these frustrated feelings carried over into the recording process as well. For the next studio album, One by One, let's just say that the recording process for the Foo Fighters was pretty unorthodox for both the band members themselves and compared to the way that albums were usually recorded. So let's consider two different One by One recording eras. One, before the break, and two, after. Oh, I forgot to mention, they take a break in the middle of all of this, but we'll get to that later. So at first, the band started recording at Grohl's very own Studio 606, and then later moved recording to LA for a change of scenery. And over the course of 4 months, the band had recorded 29 tracks and spent over $1 million. $1 million! That's a lot of money. This was also the first album for which the band had used Pro Tools to individually record each instrument track, which in itself had presented its own share of issues. So the members all recount the rising tension that had built up among themselves during this time, which led to arguments and fights between pretty much every combination of the band members, including Me First and the Gimme Gimme's guitarist Chris Shiflett, who had just recently joined. Yay, I love fighting. In April of 2002, once everyone had realized that what they had recorded up until that point wasn't even worth releasing, the band decided to take a break and reflect while focusing on other musical endeavors. Taylor Hawkins played with Jane's Addiction's bassist Eric Avery, and Nate Mendel both played with the band Juno, and he reunited with his former bandmate William Goldsmith in the Fire Theft. By the end of the month, the Foo Fighters had reunited to play a show at Coachella, but once they came back together, the arguments and the fights just started right up again. Especially between Taylor and Dave, who at this point had been considered an official touring member of Queens of the Stone Age. Before the Coachella show, they had all talked about the possibility of having to disband and move on from the Foo Fighters. But luckily after the show, they all realized just how much they enjoyed playing with each other and decided to stick together. Aww. Thus, the band's rockiest era had finally come to a conclusion as they returned to the studio once more to basically re-record the album that they already had, this time with a new perspective. Now this is the second era of the One by One story, in which the Foo Fighters flipped a 4-week-long, intensive, painstaking recording process into a 2-week one. After this, their bonds would be even stronger as they left this period of their lives with their heads held high and an album that they were satisfied with upon release. Oh, and the newfound appreciation that they had for each other, it's whatever. Don't worry, they all kind of hate the album now too, though. I think it's fair to say that pretty much every Foo Fighters fan has just as many mixed feelings about this album as the band members themselves do. While songs like All My Life and Times Like These remain staples in the Foo Fighters live sets, the consistency of this album just falters when it compares to the previous three. And as far as I'm concerned, songs like Overdrive and Burn Away are just so forgettable, and they still show remnants of the anger and the frustration that the band felt when they started recording. Those negative feelings, for better or for worse, they're found throughout the entire album, which makes these songs sound so much darker than anything that had come before it. And for the audience members, no matter what, we're gonna feel what the band feels, and if the band feels anger and frustration, that's what we're gonna feel too. I'm just most frustrated because I know that the band could do better, you know? I've seen them do it already. They've done it 3 times before this. But overall, I still think it's worth checking out, especially after knowing the entire story behind it. And despite what I've said about it so far, it's not to say that it doesn't have its merits. It pumped out a couple of successful music videos, one for the song Low, which features the Tenacious D singer and guitar player Jack Black. I don't know if he's been in anything else. I haven't been keeping up with him since then. What? What do you mean he's in Jumanji? School of Rock, that was him? And the album even won the Grammy for Best Rock Album. So give the album a listen and let me know how you feel in the comments below. Also be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it to receive notifications whenever I put out another video in this series. Stick around till next week when I pick a song from this album to do an acoustic cover of. But until then, just stay safe and wash your hands and stay healthy. Or you can just cough straight into my mouth like a toddler trying to tell a secret. Honestly, at this point, might as well go big or go home, right?